Is it actually possible to visit the location in Super Mario Sunshine in real life? My name is Kai. Join me as we set off on an adventure of wonder, of discovery and lemons as we unveil the inspiration behind Isle Delfino, the island of Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine is a game that I just adored while growing up. It's a game with a feel-good tropical holiday setting, whether it's hopping along rooftops in Delfino Plaza, swimming in the crystal clear waters in Gelato Beach, or taking a nighttime leisurely stroll through Pianta Village. It's a world that I can't help but revisit time after time again. I've always wanted to go on a holiday that gives me similar vibes to the fictional location of this game. So in this video, I set off to answer the question, where in the world can I visit that gives me similar experience to that of Mario Sunshine? The first aspect that I would focus on would be the tropical environment of Isle Delfino, which is the location that Mario Sunshine is set in. Off the top of my head, the words tropical holiday resort I associate with Hawaii or the Bahamas because, well, they have palm trees. And Isle Delfino also has palm trees. There has been Reddit comments from the 2000s that have suggested this, but I have read some comments that mention the naming of the levels being suspiciously Italian. We all know that Mario's backstory is that he's Italian-American, but his Italian ancestry is usually only referenced through his stereotypical Italian accent and his funny catchphrases.
Here we go!
As far as I know, none of the levels in the previous Mario games are named in Italian. Gelato in Gelato Beach is Italian for ice cream. Bianco in Bianco Hills is Italian for white. So that leads me to believe that the location should be inspired by somewhere in Italy or at least in the Mediterranean. So we know that the names of the levels is named in Italian, but what about the name Isle Delfino itself? What does Isle Delfino mean in Italian? After my extensive research in the library, I came to the conclusion that Isle Delfino in Italian translates to English, Dolphin Island. Great, I might be able to find an equivalent Dolphin Island in real life. So I further researched places in the world associated with the name Dolphin Island, and lo and behold, I discovered that there is actually an island in the world that is shaped like a dolphin. The island's name is Gallo Lungo. Lungo? Which is Italian for long rooster. This is literally Isle Delfino, and miraculously to me, the island itself is completely natural formed and not man-made. I decided right there and then that I had to visit the island and spin jump around on it. Except I can't. I legally can't freely visit or set foot on the island, because it's actually privately owned. Well, at least not without paying a large sum of money, since the owner of the island does actually allow stays at his luxury estate, with a package that includes being served by seven members of his staff, something that I wouldn't be able to afford, unfortunately. So the next best thing that I decided, I suppose, was to visit the sea around the island in a raft or something. More research on the location of Gallo Lungo reveals that the island is located around the coast of Amalfi. And there and then it was decided. I ran upstairs to my wife Elsie and asked her would she like to go to Italy. She said yes, and soon we were on a flight from Manchester Airport to Naples Airport in Italy, where we would take the train and then the bus to stay at a hotel in a town near Amalfi called Priano. We booked our hotel in Priano since it was a lot cheaper than if we booked one in Amalfi, since Amalfi seems to be such a tourist hotspot. The next morning, we very excitedly set off on a taxi to Amalfi, and I have to say that my jaw dropped wide open as soon as we arrived there. I could not believe it, but as soon as we got off the taxi, there's a statue in the middle of some water fountains. This, to me, seems to have directly inspired the statue that Mario is standing right in front of every time the game begins in Delfino Plaza. I can also see some kind of concrete cubes along the dock, which I like to imagine in my head may have inspired Nintendo designing the Nintendo GameCube, but that is just my own personal assumption. I would have loved to walk around Amalfi there and then, but we had already booked a ferry online back at the hotel before. That should take us past the Dolphin Island. Even though I'm already satisfied, I believe I've stumbled on the location that the developers and the level designers of Mario Sunshine probably visited decades ago. The ferry we booked was part of a day trip which would take us to the island of Capri, which is also a popular tourist destination. and we were greeted by none other than Mario himself on arrival. We treated ourselves to some breakfast at the local establishments and just generally enjoyed a chill, relaxing day around Capri until it was time for our ferry home. During the ferry ride back to Amalfi, I was too lost in my own thoughts on the wonders of what else I could discover when I got back to Amalfi, that I had completely forgotten the original reason I came here. "It's the island! It's the island!" Elsie said to me. "What island?" Oh, as I woke up back to the present, I looked out the left window and I could see that we were already going past the Dolphin Island right before my eyes. My digital camera had been packed away, so I quickly fumbled and whipped it out to get a capture of the island. Now this footage here that I got isn't very ideal. What we are looking at is the bottom tail of the dolphin, as you can see here in this image. While I was a little disappointed with the angle of the footage, I suppose the only way I could have got a better kind of footage would be if I hired a helicopter to get a bird's eye view of the island. Either way, I have definitely achieved what we came here for in the first place, and I'm sure that there are many more gems to be discovered when we arrive back to Amalfi. And there was! Walking along the docks of Amalfi did give me a feeling that this area inspired Rico Harbour, the trading port of Delfino. And while yes, I know that this port here doesn't have the tall metal constructions that doesn't seem to serve any purpose, as well as lacking a helicopter pad, I mean, what is the pilot supposed to do once he lands here? Jump off? Overall though, ignoring those video gamey aspects, I think we have a representation of Rico Harbour here. And what's more, not far from the harbour, I can see some hotels by the beach, which may very well have been the inspiration for Hotel Delfino in Serena Beach. Looks nice during the sunset. While having my evening meal, I looked up above the town of Amalfi and noticed the green hills above. With everything I've seen so far, I'm 98% sure that the hilltops up there may have directly inspired Bianco Hills, the level with windmills and a river running through it. Hey, this waterfall here seems to be spinning without power from any water. My sense of immersion is completely ruined. Oh, hello friend. I'm making a YouTube video on Mario Sunshine. Would you like to be part of what? Looking at Google Maps on Amalfi, I realised that there doesn't seem to be any rivers nor windmills in the area, but I still think it's worth going up there to have a look. Not today though, as the sun was beginning to set. While planning and deciding which one of the hills I should tackle tomorrow morning, Elsie suggested that she wanted to visit the Path of Lemons in a nearby town called Minori that she saw in a travel guide. I thought to myself, since Minori is not actually in Amalfi, therefore it would not help me in locating the inspiration of Bianco Hills, and therefore I was uninterested. But to avoid conflict, I did agree and will set off there tomorrow morning. As I walked through the streets of Amalfi, it became clear to me just how proud the town is of its lemons. From fresh produce to lemon-themed souvenirs, this lemon spirit is everywhere. Which I think is quite strange that the lemon fruit doesn't actually appear anywhere in Mario Sunshine. The cutscenes do depict Delfino as having a wide variety of tropical fruits, and we learn that Mario loves pineapples, bananas, and seafood, but nowhere in the game is lemon featured, despite how apparent that Nintendo is clearly inspired by Amalfi. I am aware that the icon for the amount of juice Yoshi has in his stomach does look like the shape of a lemon, but I fed my Yoshi a pineapple, not a lemon, so it technically shouldn't count. Speaking of inspired by Amalfi, I did notice police officers around the plaza, and their uniform did remind me of the two coppers that apprehended Mario at the beginning of the game for graffitiing around the island. So, we've got Italian names in our levels, water fountains, as well as police officers arresting Mario in an official game. I do feel that Nintendo employees did visit here once, and that the location here helped inspire those little touches to the game. As the sun sets, me and Elsie take a bus back to the hotel for a restful night's sleep. The next morning, bright and early, me and Elsie set off in a taxi for Minori, a smaller town near Amalfi and not quite as busy, which I actually liked. The Path of Lemons would require us to trek through the town and up many flights of stairs in the scorching sunlight. Going up the stairs did mean that we were treated to incredible views of the town, and as I looked up to the green hills above Minori, a realization did come to my head. There were many white buildings scattered atop those green hills, and the thought of Bianco Hills came into my head. The use of the word Bianco, as in white hills, doesn't actually refer to the hills being white, but actually it refers to the buildings around the green hills, which further cemented my theory that these areas were part of the inspiration of this game. Following the signs along the way, we came across a restaurant for a well-earned break. but as I walked into the restaurant, my attention was drawn to the view below me. I could not believe it. It was Delfino Plaza, right before my eyes in the reel. The architecture, the orange roofs, shine towers, and the majestic green hills above it. To the left, you can even see the pier, which looks like the spot where Mario enters a cannon to be transported to Pina Park. Our Delfino in Mario Sunshine isn't only inspired by Gallo Lungo and Amalfi, but Delfino Plaza itself was heavily inspired by the town of Minori. For me, it's ironic that I discovered this place since it wasn't even on my original agenda. I didn't think that the Path of Lemons would have anything to do with Mario Sunshine, but thanks to Elsie, we managed to experience this moment. We celebrated by consuming some lemon-based beverage, followed by lemon and balsamic vinegar salad, which actually isn't at all that sour compared to the lemons we would usually have back in the UK. A very appetizing cheese platter, and I can't quite remember what these ball things are, but they were nice. We finished off with more lemon beverage to further hydrate ourselves. Recharged and replenished, we continued our journey up these stairs. While catching my breath, something did catch my attention. These walls, I have seen these walls before. These white walls with green plants growing from them. These walls are the same as the ones in Bianco Hills. The textures and colours matches perfectly. Honestly, I've never been so excited about seeing some weed growing on walls. And what's this? Here we have the white structures that's featured in White Hills, the ones that Mario can run on top of. That's amazing. So I'm pleased to say that while we don't have any windmills or rivers in the hills of Amalfi Coast, the spirit of Bianco Hills can definitely be felt up here. We make another pit stop at an establishment for some lemon sorbets, plus some more lemon-based beverage to further hydrate ourselves. And off in the distance, we can see a lot of the lemon plantations that likely supply the lemon industry in Amalfi. The owner of this establishment actually invited us to go up there and visit her lemon groves. We said yes to this offer, of course, and we went up there to be awestruck by an amazing spectacle. We returned down the trail back to ground level of Minori, and we celebrated our accomplishments with seafood platter, something I'm sure Mario himself would have done. And now is a good time to think about the remaining locations in Mario Sunshine that we have not covered yet. There's Pina Park, an amusement park that Mario travels to by means of being blasted through a cannon. Highlights of this park include the Ferris wheel, pirate ships that do not fit health and safety requirements, as well as Yoshi go-rounds. A quick Google search on my phone quickly convinced me that there's no such equivalent around Amalfi Coast, and it would probably be more feasible if I was launched through a cannon myself to Nintendo World of Japan. I switched my thoughts to Pianta Village, a village that appears to be built on top of a giant tree, with giant mushrooms beneath the village, and giant palm trees that's around 100 foot tall. I didn't even bother looking up this on Google as it just seems too fictional. I then turned my attention to Gelato Beach, which, well, really is just a sandy beach on a shoreline, which I would have guessed to be more grounded in reality. Its notable features include giant mirrors, which is supposed to help the incubation of the egg that gives birth to a sand bird. Who at Nintendo thought of this? My instincts told me there's a high probability that I wouldn't be able to find these elements around Amalfi Coast. It's easy for me to say that Gelato Beach would have been inspired by any of the beaches around Amalfi, or actually anywhere in the world that has a sandy beach, but I was not satisfied with this. I wanted to show something specific from Amalfi that inspired the developers while creating Gelato Beach. I also thought about Noki Bay, which is a bay with steep cliffs and seabeds with a huge waterfall overlooking the bay. According to the Noki Elder, there's mysterious walls and paths around Noki Bay which is supposed to contain the tomb of an ancient Noki king. Such a mysterious location could not possibly be inspired by real-life Amalfi, or can it? Rewinding our day back to this morning, as we were on a taxi from our hotel to Minori, what caught my attention was a restaurant we drove past and a small cove set between two sheer rock faces, one of which reminded me of Gelato Beach and the other of Noki Bay. I explained to Elsie the significant importance of these two areas and that the discovery and unveiling of them could be a pivotal moment in the course of mankind's history. Fortunately for us, she did agree to spending the rest of the day travelling to these areas with me. We hopped on a bus and got off at the correct location. I'd like to introduce Fiordo di Fuori. Just like Noki Bay, the secluded area is surrounded by steep cliffs. We've got old ruins, deserted buildings, a rather tiny waterfall, but I suppose it's technically a fall of water. And look, there's even a dome-shaped structure that reminds me of Monty Mole's cannon boss fight. While Elsie settled on the stony beach below, I set off on a small escapade to explore the ancient ruins. I felt like some kind of archaeological labyrinth Tomb Raider person navigating the ruins, taking a peek through the sealed-off windows at the remains inside. And look, there's graffiti! And were Nintendo employees inspired by them, I wonder? By coincidence or not, Fiordo di Fuori happens to have many of the elements present in Noki Bay. And I haven't even got to the part that I was looking forward to the most. Swimming in the waters of Noki Bay. For some reason, my childhood brain has always imagined the crystal clear waters of Mario Sunshine to taste clear and fresh. And when I went for a brief swim in the blue seawater, it tasted like seawater. The saltiest seawater. I don't know why I believed otherwise, but at least I can give my childhood beliefs closure now. The waters in Mario Sunshine is really salty. Back to Gelato Beach now. I've mentioned that of all the locations in Mario Sunshine, it's very easy for me to just go on a beach in Amalfi and say that, look, there's the inspiration of Gelato Beach. However, now I can proudly present to you the specific inspirations for one of the elements of Gelato Beach here. What I'm referring to is the straw-lined ceilings of the seafood restaurant here. As you can see, it matches the fruit parlour hut that's present in Gelato Beach. Now I know that this might not be as striking as some of the other inspirations we've covered so far, but you can be assured that there was a look of genuine wonder in my face throughout my meal, while the waiters probably wondered why this person was staring at the ceiling and taking videos of it so much. And there we have it. We have successfully talked about and covered every single level in Mario Sunshine. It's been such a blast travelling around and discovering all these gems, or shines. We've accounted for every level. Oh, snap. It seems that I've forgotten about Corona Mountain, the volcano of El Delfino that's supposed to represent the dolphin's blowhole. To be honest, I didn't come to Amalfi Coast with the intention of covering every single level in Mario Sunshine. Originally, I only wanted to see a naturally formed Dolphin Island, so a visit to a volcano was never in our plans. Corona Mountain itself, I would say, is a pretty generic volcano, without any natural standout features, so I'm inclined to say that its real-life equivalent would be the closest volcano to Amalfi Coast, which would be Mount Vesuvius, located in the bay of the city of Naples. That night, I discussed with Elsie about getting some video footage of Mount Vesuvius. After some talk, she suggested a great idea that we could travel to stay at a hotel in Naples and then visit Pompeii the next day, as Pompeii is a historical Roman city that is now in ruins due to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD. This plan sounds so much more appealing to me than actually going directly to Mount Vesuvius. So the next day at the break of dawn, we were on a long-hauled bus to travel from the Amalfi coast to spend a relaxing chill day in Naples. Then the next day, we got on a train to Pompeii. We spent the day roaming around the ruins and reading about the history of this ancient Roman city as Corona Mountain became just an afterthought. So what have we learned today? Well, that there's a real-life Dolphin Island that you can visit, providing that you're able to pay an extortionate amount of money. The environmental development of Mario Sunshine was likely inspired by the Amalfi Coast, and that Nintendo really hates lemons, because if it was up to me, I would have preferred if Nintendo have created a game called Super Mario Lemons. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, as I've got more ideas for future content to create. Until the next one, goodbye.